Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today I'm introducing a brand new pattern for a bunny gnome. They have boop, cute little feet, those ears, some adorable whiskers, and you can make this thing multiple ways. Boop, if you'd like to make them with me, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, this is a fun set of gnomes who wants to know, have you joined the Facebook group yet? But really, this is a very versatile pattern. You don't have to do the bunny feet. You can use just regular feet. They're between 10 and 12 inches tall, depending on how you do the hat. Now, there are some options for you in the pattern, which I'll link down below. And this is one I made with no beard, but just cute little white whiskers. But I'm going to go ahead and make another one here for you. And we're going to start off by cutting all of the pattern pieces, making note of any tips and tricks that I give you for this one. You're going to end up with 2 pieces for a base, a hat piece, 2 feet pieces, 2 arm pieces, 2 sets of mittens, and then ears. So we're going to go ahead and start with a staged approach to this. So the first thing to do is the body. We're going to start off at the very top. We're going to go to where it says stop. We're going to start and stop our stitches. If you're new to sewing, that just means that none of your sewing will come undone. And then we're going to next sew the feet. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn them inside out, add a very small amount of stuffing, and then we're going to make sure that that back ½ inch or so is not stuffed at all. So you can see here, looking at the back, you can see that the bunny feet are aligned and pointing out. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're just going to pull the wrong side back piece, this here with the seam. We're going to pull that back and just pin it out of the way real quick, because what we need is this front edge. Now you're going to take both of your feet, and because again we want the feet to go out, we're actually going to have to put them facing inward to that seam. So that's just a tricky bit I wanted to detail. So what you're going to do is you're just going to place these 2 feet along that edge, making sure you've got some hangover, and then we're going to pin them in place. Now the one little tricky thing is just pin one and then line up the other one at the front edge where the little paw part will be, because that way you won't have 2 missized feet. All right, so now we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to sew these on slowly, individually, and your sewing machine is going to be able to handle it. I know it's fleece, I know it's going to be thick, but look at this. It's super easy. So we're going to sew both of those on separately, making sure we start and stop our stitches, and then we're going to take our bottom piece, right side is going to be facing in, and we're just going to attach it like we do every other base piece, and that is just splitting this circumference of the opening with the base. And all you're doing is just pinning it to each of these areas in place. You won't have any puckering, you won't have any scrunching. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So you can see here it all perfectly is flat. So then you're going to take that, and again pay attention to what is called out in the pattern, because you're going to want to make sure you catch all pieces of this. This is the base of your gnome, it needs to be strong. So you can see everything's good. All right, so now we're going to move on. We're going to start and stop our stitches on the hat. You don't need to hem it. We're going to make both arms, and we're going to top stitch whatever inlay you have for the ear. Then you're going to sandwich those 2 pieces together, right sides together. Pay attention to the pattern details or it'll be very difficult to make this thing look like a bunny. And then we're going to make sure, after everything is done, we're going to make sure we have everything counted. You can check your pattern. We're going to turn out the body piece. So you can see we're going to turn out the hat and the body. So we do the same little part with the tips. There you go. And now you can see his little feet. And then you're going to turn out the arms. You can see the ears here using your end of your pen or pencil. Just rub those seams together. And if you do want to add a piece of pipe cleaner in those, you can do that now. And then you're just going to make sure your seam is on the inside of the arm, and then you're just going to put on the mittens as a placeholder. Now here's the fun part when watching a gnome come together. So you can use at least 1 cup of poly beads, maybe a little more, before you start stuffing. I get asked a lot, why the gnomes aren't high-end or fluffy or whatever, but I'll tell you, it really starts with the stuffing, okay? Make sure that you have a solid body. Now, this is for a bendable hat, so you're going to use a 12-gauge wire, and we're going to bend one end and put it all the way up to the tippy top of that body piece. And then you're going to cut all the way down. You're going to cut plus 1 inch so that you can actually roll that bottom piece and make it a 90-degree piece. Pull it out of the top, thread it all the way through the bottom of the body. And then you're going to make sure that tippy top goes all the way to the edge again, and you're going to glue the wire to the seam. You're not going to add glue in the middle because we're going to stuff it. Okay, so just make sure that you're holding the wire up against that seam. And then you just stuff it like normal. And again, stuffing it completely will make a difference. So I roll it in between my hands, I drop it on the table, I squish it, and you can see if my hand goes in too far, I add a little bit more stuffing. So once I think I have it stuffed enough, I'm going to lay it down and add stuffing right at that seam area. But I'm going to grab that wire, so you can see me picking up that wire because I'm going to need that wire. I want to secure it so it doesn't move, right? So I'm going to sew it. You can glue it, but I don't recommend it. I just don't think it's secure when you're moving something around that much. So all I'm doing is sewing up the hole and grabbing the wire in between those stitches. I tied it off, and then I just put the needle through the body, pulled it really tightly, and then cut it, and it disappears into the body. And now you can bend it or move it any way you want. It's secure. And that's what I've got so far. All right, so before we move on, we're actually going to make the feet before we put anything else on this little cutie. Get a larger needle. I use a darning needle or tapestry needle. Use whatever color embroidery thread you'd like. Do not split it. Go up through the middle of the foot and the bottom. Wrap around the thread. You can see I have way too much thread here. Maybe cut a 16-inch piece, not 30, whatever I cut. And so once you pull it taut, watch, boom, there's a little bunny toe. Okay, now we're just going to repeat that again. So going up through the center of the bottom of the foot, and then over, get tangled up in your embroidery thread, and then pull it taut. Bam, there's another bunny toe. So I repeated this twice to make sure that you could really see this definition. Be sure not to pull too hard on the second try because then you'll have a little lumpy bit. And then to tie it off, I just put it through the top, went down onto the bottom again, threaded it through all of those threads, and then tied knots, cut it off, and added a tiny bit of hot glue. And then I just repeated it for the second foot. So you're going to slip on the hat and bend down everything a little bit, and you're finding the position of the nose. So I put on either side those pins. Any beard style is going to work for you. I just wanted to be able to have a little tuft around. So I cut a triangle, which was already cut. It was a scrap. And then I cut opposite. I cut another triangle, put it on top the opposite way, split the fur, added the wood bead, and then now I'm cutting 3 different lengths of black embroidery thread. And these are going to be my whiskers. You can use white, you can use pink, you can use whatever, silver, gold. And I'm just going to take a little piece or a little bit of Mod Podge on a paintbrush and make sure I get every bit of these threads. Again, you're not splitting these so that they can be thick enough to see. So you're just going to paint them, and then we're going to set them off to dry. I did run them through my fingers to make sure everything was connected. While those are drying, just go ahead and get your hat piece. Measure 1.5 inches from the center bottom, and then measure 3/4 of an inch from that center piece and mark about a 1/2 inch line. That's where you're going to cut for our ears. You don't need to actually make huge dark lines on your hat. I just did that so that you all could see it. You will be able to hide it. Okay, so once now your whiskers are dry, right? So we're going to go get that silicone mat again, tuck them all together, add a little tiny bit of hot glue, let it set while you go get your finger guard, and then press it down. So once you have them together, get your thumb and finger guard and kind of roll it in between. While that's setting, we're going to split up a little bit of the fur, so you can see here, up 1, up 2, and what I'm trying to do is get to the fabric backing. There it is. You can see it right in there. That's because everything sticks better when you glue it to the fabric backing. Noses, Whiskers, doesn't matter. So I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and then press that right there in the center and kind of pull it up so it really distributes that glue and we can get a nice grip. Now don't put down the hair until the actual glue is dry, so you can just see there. And now you can style it any way you want. All right, so now because we know exactly where the nose is, I'm going to put a drop of hot glue here, remove the other pin, and then I'm going to line up the nose, not the top of your beard, okay? So we measured where that nose needed to be. Next, we're just going to secure it all the way around. It's coming together. I won't sing. All right, so now I'm just going to position my hat on and then bend it all down after I get it all the way up to the tippy top, because again, we don't need any stuffing in the hat because we have the body. So once I have it all where I want it, I'm going to position the back down with 2 pins. I'm going to make sure that seam is aligned, and I have my little holes on either side of our nose. I'm going to finalize these mittens here. I'm just going to add hot glue to secure them, but you can tie them with strings, sew them by hand, whatever you want. You can use wood beads, anything you want. This is just for inspiration. So once you have your hands ready, don't get too excited because we're just going to pin them in place. And the reason is because I want to make sure that whatever my little Gnome is holding, I have made. So I'm just going to go ahead, pin these in place. And then I'm going to move to the ears. You are going to squish the bottom and push it through just like that. And you squish the bottom and push it through so that it creates a nice little like squishy part in the middle. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So, and then you're just going to make sure that they're even. So really turn this around, look to see if you have pipe cleaner in there, bend them however you want them. Just make sure that they look good, and make sure that wherever you cut is tucked in so you can't see it. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. I didn't have any like extra accoutrement to decorate my little bunny with, so I'm going to make something. I took half of a K-cup that I cut with scissors. I traced a bottom. I glued it on. This is just like tan colored felt. And then I wrapped the rest of the K-cup in a too big for it piece of scrap felt. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to make all these little tab cuts and then be able to fold it down and glue it on the inside and burn myself. So use a pencil or those little finger, there you go, those things. Cut off the excess, fill it with this paper grassy stuff, and add a little bit of whatever you're putting in there. I took a bit of 12 gauge wire that I used for the hat, and that I used for the body, I'm sorry, and I just wrapped some felt around it. Real easy, super easy, and then I cut it off, and then I just made it look a little more polished by making sure every piece was down, bent it in the center, kind of rounding it. Seam is on the bottom. And then I'm test fitting it, so no glue quite yet because I want to know if it's going to cover my Gnome face, and it does. So bam, 3/4 of an inch gets cut off, and then I glue it into the basket on the sides and on the bottom. There we go. Now it doesn't cover my Gnome face. And I just secured that egg in there with some glue. Set it aside, and let's secure down our ears. So you're going to glue the ear to the body, and then you're going to run out of glue. So you're going to glue the hat to the ear. There you go. And then you're going to do the other side. You're going to glue the ear to the body. And then you're going to glue the hat to the ear. So you're just going to roll over that bottom edge. You don't have to hem it because we're not done. But we do need to make sure it looks even and everything like that. Flip over your gnome, remove the pins in the back. You're going to do the same thing we do with every other gnome. Fold up the edge, secure the back seam so it lines up. Now you can work on the arms. I like to position whatever it is I'm working with, so I'm going to put it on his hands first. Here's one hand, and position the beard, and then here's the other hand. And now I can glue down the arms. So I'm just going to lay it down on its side, remove the pins, and glue the arm to the body and the hat to the arm. And again, you're just going to roll down that edge so it creates sort of a hem, and secure everything down. It's easy, right? This part goes so fast. It did take me about an hour to make this gnome, but you're just going to repeat that for the other arm. And now you can add your little cotton tail. So for the girl, I added a very large 2-inch pom-pom that I sewed on, and for this little guy, I just glued on a 1-inch pom-pom. And there you have it. They're all done. What do you think? Be sure to let me know in the comments below and get this pattern. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. If you want more, I do have a playlist for you. Please like and subscribe.